So today I thought I would give you guys a little bit of a garden tour and we can see what's going on in my garden right now. I don't think I've done on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube any tours on the scope of kind of the growing area that I'm dealing with, what our backyard looks like, and I thought that would be something that was fun to do. So one of the reasons why we bought this apartment, we wanted a townhouse. We didn't want to deal with people being above and below us and having to be concerned about noise complaints and noisy neighbors and stuff like that. But when we saw this apartment, or I should say I absolutely fell in love with it. Not only due to the size of the backyard, but the gardening community that we have here. We're really lucky that we open up onto, our backyard opens up onto a 1/4 acre little private park, which is great for the dogs to be able to run around in, and we actually have our own community garden and little gardening club, which is really fantastic. A lot of people this year that had plots last year decided to opt out this year, which means I get extra gardening space, and I'll show you guys that. So this is our backyard. It's roughly 560 square feet, which is pretty decent for an apartment. I like to say this side of our garden is where all my green stuff is, and this side of the garden kind of, as you can see, needs a little bit more work, but I think realistically everyone's backyard kind of looks like that. When we moved in, we were dealing with this all being rock, and a lot of this plot back here was also the river rock, and we've gotten rid of a lot of it and moved some of it around. We also took out some really invasive vines that you can still kind of see the remnants of over here, and they were going crazy, and they were growing all along the fence and all under all the wood all there. So I took that out, and I took out a big hydrangea we had in this corner, and that gave me a lot of room for all of my annuals and my vegetables. So in the beginning of the year, I started a bunch of seeds inside, and those all got transferred out at the beginning of April. And you can see my lettuce, my arugula, it's all doing super, super well. The peas are taking off. We're struggling a little bit with slugs eating the base of the peas, which you can kind of see down there. So you can see my slug trap set up, trying to be as animal conscious and organic as possible while still protecting my precious veg. But the spinach and the lettuce is doing fantastic. I planted some sorrel this year, which is also doing equally as fantastic. My potatoes I planted at the beginning of the year, and they're taking off, and they're almost ready to be hilled up. So that's pretty awesome. Collard greens doing really well. Kale, this is dwarf red kale, doing really well. The back I planted some beans without realizing that pole beans need full sun, so none of them really germinated quite yet. They're a little slow. But I also planted some beets, and you can see all of my beet seeds have started germinating, so that's awesome. Right here around this stump, I decided to kind of turn it into a herb garden. So everything that's going in here is going to be for cooking and teas. So we've got sage. My lavender plant unfortunately didn't come back this year. Some oregano, some lemon balm, and in the middle I'm hoping to do some nasturtiums and have them kind of grow down the stump. Then got some herbs coming back from last year. And the mint has absolutely taken over this pot. And the poor chives aren't doing too great, but yeah, so that's kind of our backyard and what we're dealing with. I'm hoping in June to be planting some cucumbers in this area. This is like the only spot in the backyard that gets full sun. The rest of this plot is all shade varieties. And at the same time that I transplanted my lettuce outside, I direct sowed some new seeds here. So I'm eating this part now, and by the time this is all germinated, I'm hoping in a month I'll be eating the lettuce. From here you can see a lot of that's germinating now too. So besides our backyard, we also have this awesome gate that opens up onto this private little park, which is absolutely fantastic. It's owned by Strata, and you can really see, you know, how much everyone loves gardening. We have a tool shed with tools we can borrow. We've got an apple tree over there. And lots of people that don't have backyards can rent or use the gardening plots that have been built. So this year I'm sharing this corner plot with someone else this year, which means I can grow a lot bigger stuff than I used to be able to. And I've already started corn. I'm hoping on trying the Three Sisters method this year, so growing the corn and then growing pole beans up the corn and then having squash as a ground layer. And that should do really well here. It gets full sun from that direction, and then from this fence line this direction it gets shade, mostly due to the trees. So that should do well there. And then I've got this bed this year that I'm going to work on. There's a lot of onions and herbs left over from the last person, and as you can see it's lacking a lot of dirt, so I have to add some more dirt and some more compost to it. But this bed gets full sun and is right by the hose, which is awesome. So I'm planning on filling this with tomatoes this year. I think I can fit about 6 with some rebar posts, and then taking out all the onions there. So that should be good. And then this bed here was my winter bed. So I overwintered a bunch of garlic, I overwintered leeks, and I built a cold frame over it. So in January I had planted radishes in here, which I'm now harvesting. And I have some old seeds that I kind of just dumped in here to see how they would do. So I've got carrots. The carrots are trying their darndest. They're going to need to be thinned out, and then I can kind of organize the rows. I planted some lettuce seeds in here. They didn't do so great. But I also have some old turnip seeds that I put in here, which are super awesome because turnips are a really good nitrogen fixer for soil. Good cover crop. And then these guys here are some extra collard greens that I decided to put in here instead of putting in the backyard. Once my radishes come out, I'm slowly picking them right now. I'm probably going to do some canned radishes. I'm going to do one more sowing of radishes. They take about 45 to 60 days to mature. And then after the second sowing of radishes, I'll do my second sowing of carrots in here. So by the time these are reaching maturity, I should be planting new carrots in here. And I'm going to try overwintering some carrots in this plot this year and see how that goes. So aside from this plot, that plot, the corner plot, we also have a lot of community stuff, which is really awesome. So along here you can see we've got some raspberries starting out. Now someone's been cutting the raspberries back every year. From what I know of raspberries, they grow on old growth, so it's better to leave them grow and have a trellis system. So we're gonna try and fight to save the raspberries this year and make sure they don't get cut back. We also have a whole bunch of strawberries. The strawberries were all divided this year. So these are all our 1-year baby strawberries. These were last year's strawberries. And then these strawberries over here, I think about 3 years old. And we've got some flowers forming, so that's super exciting. And then we got our rhubarb plants, which are gonna be ready soon. This guy was all yellow flowers really early on. It's a hawthornia, and they're one of the first plants to flower. And then our apple tree, totally loaded with flowers this year. So that's super exciting. And you guys have probably all seen the video that I did on our compost system and how we compost here. It's super awesome with all of the raised beds to be able to have a compost system. And then we had a greenhouse that was here that fell down in a really bad windstorm that we had. So we're talking with Strata and trying to see if we can get a new wooden greenhouse structure put in there, and then everyone that has the community beds will be able to do their seed starts in there. So yeah, that's our gardens. That's what we're dealing with here. It's pretty great. It beats having to do container gardening and have a ton of pots all over your backyard and have to trellis things. And I'm super fortunate. We've been here since September 2019. Last year was just a lot of experimenting to see where the shade was and where the sun was and how good the soil wasn't very good. It hadn't been amended in a couple years. So we were dealing with that and just kind of organizing the backyard and getting it to the point that I wanted it to be at, where I could start playing with it and really planting things and see how much I can get out of it. So this year my goal is to grow as much as possible and eat as much as possible from what I can grow. And I'd like to see if we can go 30 days without purchasing any produce whatsoever from the grocery store. So that should be a good challenge. I'm also growing all of my own tea, so I haven't bought tea in about a year. I've been doing herbal teas, mint, lemon balm. That sounds fantastic. I have a tea plant on my bucket list. I would really love to try out growing a tea plant and get like green tea and white tea from it. So yeah, let me know what you're growing this year. What are your plans this year? Do you have any gardening goals? Anything new you're trying? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear what you're planting and what you're trying out this year, and maybe we have some similarities. Did you see anything in my backyard or my growing that you think I could improve on or should move? Let me know that too. Again, I'm quite the amateur at gardening. I just kind of put seeds in the ground and hope something grows. So yeah. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more content, hit the subscribe button. You don't realize for a new YouTuber how much this means to me every time I see a notification pop into my inbox. So thank you all for the encouragement, and I hope to have another video out for you soon.